welcome back to another episode of Tryp Rapport. Today, I'm super grateful to have Colin Wells back again. We've been trying to get him to sit down to talk about cactus for some time now. The last episode that just dropped was with Manu talking about his cactus experience, but I've really been wanting to pick Colin's brain because he's told me repeatedly that cactus is the most beautiful experience that he's had so far with psychedelics. So with that, Colin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you and miss you dearly.
Likewise, brother.
Yeah, it's tough, man. You make these connections and these friends, and then life happens, and you gotta go with the flow. But, you know, I'm super happy for you swimming with dolphins. So that's I can't beat a dolphin, really. So
yeah.
But yeah, man, so cactus, I'll just kind of stream of consciousness, talk about it. And if you want to interrupt me at all, you feel free to.
Yeah, sounds good. The phone call ones get a little bit weird, so there's definitely that little level of talking over each other when you can't see one another, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll get in the groove. Just follow your lead. So psychedelics, you know, they really helped me, and they helped me fast. And I moved from cannabis to psychedelics, and I was giving them both out for free. So once you start opening your heart to these things, they really do find you, especially when you're giving them away and having a compassionate approach to these medicines. But that's exactly what I was doing. So I got my healing through mushrooms, my initial healing, and then ayahuasca, and started my journey towards, you know, what I do now, giving out free psychedelics and helping people get free medicines and things like that. And during my time doing that, I was living in my van, and I would travel all over the country giving people mushrooms and cannabis. You know, I went from California to Maryland to West Virginia to Texas and everywhere in between. And it was amazing. And like I said, I just really opened my heart up to the possibilities. Cactus, like I get flustered even talking about it, like talking about an old lover. Cactus has always been a part of my being, my soul. Even when I was a kid, I would draw cactus just randomly. I have old homework from when I was like 8, 9 years old with just cactus drawn all over them. So I've always felt very connected to it. So during this time when I was living in my van, I met a guy named Taylor who was, I'm going to get this wrong, an ethnobotanist, I think.
Okay.
He was a ranger at a place called Santa Margarita, which was a hiking trail I did a lot over in Fallbrook. And right when I started getting with Cookie and we started to kind of cohabitate, I would go to this place and hike very often, you know, go early in the morning, just go alone. I did take groups there. And this guy, Taylor, comes up to me one day and he sees my van and sees the Veterans Walk and Talk on the side of it and everything. And we start talking about everything. And next thing you know, we're talking about cactus. And I had never drank anything with mescaline or cactus before. And we became such fast friends that in the subsequent weeks I hiked with him, he started to bring me some cactus to have to grow. So I was given a Peruvian torch, which is a beautiful bluish green cactus on the skinny side, but just gorgeous. And I brought that home to Cookie, and I had just started moving in with her, and I grew it. I just grew the cactus for several months and just nurtured it, loved it, and took care of it. And then I think it was September 23rd. It was like 2 days before the autumnal equinox. I just went out there and saw the cactus, and it just told me that I need to eat it, basically.
Yeah.
It was just like, you know, I had been researching mescaline and peyote and cactus since I got it because I was just fascinated by it. So I was reading Aldous Huxley and Carlos Castaneda and, you know, just taking in everything I could about what these things can actually do. And I feel like the cactus picked up on my willingness to learn, how just soulful I was taking it. And yeah, it looked at me, I looked at it, and I said, well, I guess I'm going to eat this. And I'm a big believer in self-facilitation. it's becoming like really just overused, that you have to always be watched and guided, and when you do these things, and that is the case for a lot of therapeutic situations, but the right to explore our own consciousness is something that's ingrained in us ancestrally. So I'm a big believer in that, and that's honestly how I've had my most profound experiences of self-facilitation. So I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't. I looked up online how to process a cactus into, something you can drink for medicine, and researched it a bit. So the next day, the 24th, and I believe the equinox was on the 25th. That's the day I took it. I might have that a couple of days off, but I, harvested the cactus over the next 2 days. I chopped it down with love, put crystals all around it. I even put headphones with music and put it on the cactus.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was the playlist you had for it?
Oh, it was all my songs, from like The Planets to Beethoven to Glass Animals and Gangstar and everything.
Nice.
All my music.
Nice.
Yeah. So I slowly, methodically sat there and harvested this cactus. I had been told that my friend Taylor, who gave me the cactus, he told me in order to have a full experience, I need to eat about my arm's length.
Forearm,
so,
correct?
No, like my whole arm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I was going on, and that's what I was processing. So I did that, cut it up. If you've ever processed cactus,
it is a tedious son of a bitch.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's rough. And, you really don't want to waste anything.
Right.
It's like harvesting an animal in the wild. Like, you want to eat the eyeballs. You got to eat every last part because it's so sacred. So Cookie and I harvested it for over several hours, scraping out the dark green parts underneath the waxy outer shell to get the mescaline, and then avoiding the inner white part that is, that is more nauseating. And I did all that, blended it up. Again, burning sage, singing to it, loving on it. And then I boiled it down over the next night and strained it with cheesecloth, and boiled it down again and strained it in cheesecloth. Boiled it down and boiled it all the way down till it was still a pretty good amount. Like, I don't know, I want to say like 16 ounces, maybe 24 ounces of fluid. Again, okay. I did not know what I was doing. So, yeah, I was just following what the cactus was telling me to do and being curious. Mm-hmm. My beautiful wife, Cookie, is a Navy veteran, and she is an incredibly spiritual person, has taught me so much about what it is to have a spiritual connection, the possibilities of prayer, and putting yourself at the mercy of things that are just higher than yourself. So she guided me and had me make some offerings. I took pennies to the river with me. I took some bones that we had collected and buried them next to the river and made offerings to what she would call as Oshun, which is like the river god. So I did that. Never really had much of that experience in my life. I just knew it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And decided to just go for it. So I went to the Santa Margarita River, the same place that I was gifted the cactus, and I sat in my van with my dog Hash and drank the entire amount of liquid, just gulped it down and threw my pack on and started walking. That's actually when I buried the bone and put the pennies in the water. At first it's like a light trickle of familiarity to what psychedelics are. It's like, okay, things are brighter. I feel sharp. I'm starting to feel a little something. Mm-hmm. But then I went down and I got to the river, and immediately, and it's a pretty private place, but it's not private completely. Like, people will come around eventually. Right. So I got to the river. I went and stood on top of a waterfall and just stripped everything off of me, like all my clothes. I just went completely ass out. No fucks. Like, I didn't care where my bag went. I didn't fold my clothes nicely. I just went full fucking feral. And then immediately threw up into the waterfall. Like, everything that I had drank, I basically threw up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, I don't know if there's a Harry Potter fans or fans in general of magic and things like that in movies, like people teleporting, it always is kind of like jarring to them at first. They're like, they get teleported and then they're throwing up or dizzy because they've never done it before.
Right.
That's what it felt like. I felt like I threw up in the waterfall and teleported into a world that I had never been to before. The moment I picked my head up, like, you could see the energy in the forest. Like, there was writing on everything. Nothing I could really read, but I kind of understood. Like, the rocks kind of morphed into hieroglyphics and all these different shapes and colors. And I just jumped in the water, was swimming around, becoming one with nature. I became water. I felt what it was like to be a molecule and flow down the river. I laid at the spear of a rock face down and became the rock. And I saw the rock's inception and where it's been throughout its entire existence. And I saw people sitting on the rock like I was. I saw hikers walking by. I saw dogs peeing on it. I saw everything that's ever happened to that rock. And then I turned and looked at a tree, and the same thing happened with the tree. I became the tree, and I saw all its memories, and I felt every ounce of human touch that's ever come by that tree. I started to experience. That's when I kind of stood up and I just said out loud, I'm not calling. I'm not calling anymore. I'm not him. I don't know who I am, but I'm not calling. And it was like, you talk about ego death and all these buzzwords when it comes to psychedelics and killing the self and then rebuilding the self and becoming one with your id and ego and superego. And this was the first time that myself kind of dissolved, and it's the first and only time that my self dissolved, and I wasn't scared shitless about it.
Mm-hmm.
With DMT and then like these large mushroom journeys, I feel that self dissolving, but it's more fearful. Like, it's like I'm terrified because I'm experiencing a death in a real way, and I know that, and my soul knows that because it's experienced death before, and I'm scared of that. But with Cactus, I could navigate it. Like, I could feel.
Was
yeah,
this
go ahead,
feeling repeatable for you? Have you done Cactus since, and was it another death experience that you weren't afraid of?
I have only microdosed mescaline since then.
Okay.
Which has been like a phenomenal fucking tool for microdosing. It's my preferred method of microdosing by far. But no, I haven't done a big journey since then. So there's no reason why it would repeat. It could, you read Castaneda and you read these authors who talk about Cactus and how allies with some people and some people don't. Same with like Datura or any of these things. Some things just make people, go batshit because it's not an ally to them.
Yeah, I wonder how much, like, there's so many variables at play that we don't understand too, because, you're talking about being on the equinox, and I have to ask myself if that has anything to play into it as well, because I had a few early ego dissolution experiences with psilocybin that were beautiful, and then I had subsequent ones that were absolutely terrifying that I wouldn't wish upon anybody in this world. And so that's where I have to wonder if our mindset, if it's the time of the year, if it's the moon phase, like how many different variables really come into play with all of these things, along with dosage set and setting, in terms of whether that death experience is beautiful or terrifying.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I believe that everything that I did, respecting the plant and respecting the knowledge I was learning and giving the offerings, everything, all of that really made me have this beautiful and nurturing experience. The mindset is that's a big thing with psychedelics now, is that everybody's like, gotta heal your trauma, gotta dig into your childhood and heal and heal and heal and heal. But you put that much pressure on yourself going in, and you're bound to, like, not have a great experience and maybe even come out a little worse than you were beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Setting an intention is obviously crucial when it comes to these things. But if I go into a psychedelic experience wanting to heal the violence that I, endured in Afghanistan, then I'm already going in there with that mindset. Whereas if I just go in and submit to the medicine and let whatever comes come, I'm much more likely to not only heal and have those experiences come up in a constructive way, but also not freak out at the same time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I respect the thought process of setting an intention, but I really think by the time you found these medicines, you're trusting in their wisdom to do what they were put on this earth to do. And I think that's what has to happen, is you just have to, like, hop in the back seat, let it drive, and say, look, I don't know where this is going to go, but I trust you to lead me where I need to go to do whatever work has to happen. Yeah.
100%. I agree completely. And that's exactly what this Cactus experience was for me, because in all my psychedelic experiences, I never really tapped into my combat experience in Afghanistan. Like, I'm always surprised. Like, I think it's going to come up and I'm going to dwell on it but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, without any intention, just going with the flow, it was the single most rewarding time I've had processing the moral injury and guilt and things that I feel about Afghanistan. I was, as myself kind of dissolved, and I was saying, I'm not calling anymore. And I even pulled my camera out a couple times, because I'm a journalist at heart, and I have these great videos of me saying, Colin's here, but I'm not calling. It's awesome. So as myself is kind of dissolving, I'm getting out of the water, again, completely naked. My dog Hash is just howling and playing with sticks next to me. And I climb up on these rocks, and I'm looking up at the trees, and it's completely, I'm just completely fucking tapped in. Like, I can see everything. I can do anything. I am the most powerful person that I could possibly be. I am the epitome of Colin right now, but I'm not Colin, but I am Colin, and I'm the best Colin that I could be. And at that moment, I started screaming Afghanistan at the top of my lungs, just the word Afghanistan. And no build up or anything. It was just my soul and my neurons leading me to it. And I started screaming it at the top of my lungs. And for those of us that have experienced psychedelics in a profound way, that release of energy and yelling is really beneficial. And I started screaming Afghanistan out loud. And as I did that, black spirals of, like, ghostly shadows started emerging from my mouth and going into the sky, and then turning into little spiders. And then the tree above me started eating the spiders.
Huh.
It was the coolest thing.
It's interesting you mentioned the black spirals, because I was just listening to my former podcast with the cannabis assisted psychotherapy. And when I watched something come out of my glute, it was a dark black spiral that came through.
Yeah.
There's something about that for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, there's, you could argue that it's all the fucking programming we've had from horror movies and thrillers and stuff that, there's always that kind of aspect to it. But again, all of that is, coming from a place of creative inception as well. So it's all just kind of a cyclical creation. It doesn't mean.
But it's what came first, that black spiral or the horror movie? You know what I mean? Like, did we think about it because of the horror movie, or did the horror movie, was it based on somebody who had an experience with mescaline or mushrooms, and that's why they put it in that Hollywood setting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, those blacks, I'll never forget that. I can see it right now as I think about it. I can just see them being eaten, and I felt lighter than air after that. I just felt like such a weight had been lifted off me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to make it very clear that, like, I am in no way completely fine with everything I did in Afghanistan. Like, I didn't have that experience and then like, oh, I'm good now, no worries.
Right.
Like, that's not the case with these things. For anybody listening who's new to this or looking, you know, that's just, it does help you and make you feel lighter than air. But it's like if you go get a massage, your back feels better, but then you just go slouch and don't work out, you're just going to get worse.
Right.
So I felt lighter than air, and man, it must have been 15 hours that I was standing there and laying on that rock.
Wow.
Yeah, just completely just out of it. I got there at like 6 a.m. and I didn't get home until, I don't know, like 9 p.m. or something like that.
And you had no draw to wander from that location. It's something told you to stay right there.
Yeah, I just found my little nest and stayed right there, and I was good. I mean, I'm a bold and experienced psychedelic user, but I'm also a little bit wackadoo and crazy. So, you know, going out and doing this kind of thing just on a whim is not something that I would, like, I really did my research. As much as I didn't know what I was doing, I had read enough and learned enough to have a little bit of preparation going in. And I think that really benefited me to where, like, you know, you get that urge, I'm going to go run in the forest, I'm going to go climb that tree. And there's still something in the back of your head that goes, wait, no, just chill. Like, you know, let's make good decisions right now. You know, running and climbing a tree or running into the forest or things like that, for me, these are all ways that I use to escape the medicine and not let it do its work. Like, when I just sit there and dissolve with it, that's when it really starts to get to work for me. And yeah, man, it was like 16 hours. And I'm not proud of this, but I drove home still pretty, you know, like, let me just put it this way. I remember following Purple home. I said, something told me to follow Purple, so I followed Purple, and I got home safely.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm right there with you. I've made poor decisions while on doses of substances where I'm like, okay, I can reflect back and say that I shouldn't have done that. But just one more reason why I will say that being in touch, because I've heard so many times people be like, oh, I'll never do psychedelics. I won't do mushrooms. Like, but then they'll just get shit faced and I'll watch them black out and I'll see their shark eyes and I know they're going to feel like garbage for the next week. And it gets so frustrating to me because it's like, I am way better being in a slightly tripping state, driving my car home, than to be in any amount of intoxicated and behind the wheel. Like, you're going to be far more tuned in and ready for anything that comes at you if you're tripping. Again, would never tell anybody to do it and do my best to never put myself in that situation again. But it's so much safer than being under the influence of alcohol than, for sure.
No, I agree with you completely. And like I said, my kids, when you hear this one day, don't do what I did. Make sure you have a ride and stuff like that. But I was safe. I got home perfectly fine. And you know this because you have such a beautiful partner in your life. When you're doing psychedelics, like having that connection with someone and that support when you're going through these things, even if you're not doing it with them, is fucking crucial. Like, if you come home to like a bitter wife who's like mad you were gone all day and like, you know, just like, well, yeah, I hope you had fun. You know what I mean? That kind
jealous.
Of
you didn't spend it with them. Right.
Yeah. It can really set you off. But as you know, and I know, we're fortunate enough to have people who are just incredibly supportive in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the real capper to my Cactus day, after becoming a rock and becoming water. Oh, there was another time I skipped over, but I was laying there on that rock and my arms became eagles, like full on eagles, dude. Like, I could see the veins and smell them, and it was the wildest thing ever. So even after all of this, you know, becoming water, becoming a tree, becoming a rock, screaming Afghanistan and having my trauma pulled out of me and becoming eagles, I was able to go home and fall into the arms of my lover and just have her nurture me. And that, in her ways, because she's so tapped into the Yoruba tradition and her Cuban roots, was I mean, like, it can't be understated. She had soup for me. She lit me a cigar for tobacco and let me lay on the floor and consume tobacco and cleanse myself. And then she drew me a bath and put rose petals and everything in the bath for me to just kind of wash away the day. And I'm telling you, man, that was, you know, I felt so loved and appreciated, not just from her, but from myself. You know, that feeling has lasted a long time. And honestly, that experience was still to this day the most profoundly life-affirming and beautiful psychedelic experience I could ever hope to have.
That's amazing, man. A couple questions. So
yeah.
You immediately go to your birthday suit. What I feel like that could maybe steer some people away from wanting to try mescaline. So is it something that it just felt right for you and you did it? Did you were you ass naked for 15 hours or did you put your clothes back on at some point? And then were there other people coming through that area you were in that, you know, may have been like, who's this crazy naked man?
Right. Yeah. I had put my shirt on a couple times. If there's a body of water, like, I'm getting in it, whether I'm on mescaline or not.
Right.
So I think just getting in my birthday suit was just kind of the natural inclination to kind of leave everything that I brought with me into that forest elsewhere and just be and just allow this stuff to happen. As far as other people, I didn't notice. And if anybody ever came on me, I didn't notice. And I didn't see anybody the whole time I was there. Hash didn't go barking at anybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there could be video of me somewhere out there, which, you know, I would love to see my white ass screaming Afghanistan in the woods.
Ginger Sasquatch in the woods.
Oh, please, let me see. I would laugh so hard. It would be amazing. But no, yeah, I didn't have any run-ins with anybody, and no animals. I ran into rattlesnakes there a lot. I didn't run into any then, and no, it was pretty smooth.
Gotcha. On that note of not noticing anybody else, when I asked Manu in his recent episode if he had noticed closed eye visuals, he said he actually didn't close his eyes at all. Did you go inward in that closed eye realm?
That's a great question. And yes, absolutely I did. Yes.
So my question would be, how did the visuals differ, or were they the same as your typical psilocybin, DMT, etc. experience with the closed eyes?
It was very similar to the closed eyes visuals of a heavy psilocybin experience, but it was, for me, it was clearer.
Okay.
It was more like if there was a rectangle in front of me, you know, doing its thing, I could really pinpoint the edges, and it was sharp, and it was just a lot clearer and a lot more navigational, like a touch screen. Like, oh, that's over there. Let me just swipe over there, and okay, now I'm over here. And okay, cool. Let me swipe over here, and now I'm here. But the biggest thing that I visualized were just this writing. Like everything became writing at one point.
Yeah.
It was just all words and letters and scratches, and, you know, it felt like I was in a Van Gogh painting kind of. The visuals went nonstop until the next morning when I woke up.
Okay. That was my following question was, 15 hours, you get home, Cookie takes care of you, but start to finish, how long would you say that experience ran?
I mean, I fell asleep probably around 1 a.m. So that would be like, around 20 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then by morning, you would say you were back at baseline, or there was still some lingering effect?
Bro, I shot out of that bed like a cannon. I was fucking good to go. No like afterburn where you're just like, oh, I don't know what happened. It was like, I was just raring, dude, ready to tackle life, man. I woke up with, the intention of fucking healing everybody. I had to reel that in, because I know you see a lot of veterans, and if there's any veterans out there that are running a mile a minute with psychedelics, just slow down, take it from me, because I got humbled by mushrooms and some other things later, because I was shot out of a cannon like, I'm going to heal everybody and this is going to be so great. It did light a fire under my ass, and I've done amazing work since then. Some of the proudest work I've ever done in my life since that experience, and also learned a lot about reeling it in and just, letting these things find people rather than making people find it.
Yeah. And allowing people to have access to it, because I don't like the term heal people, because we can't heal anyone. They can only heal themselves. And that's the biggest, that's what I struggle with most with seeing other people around me now, is people who are hurting and aren't doing well, but are putting forth zero effort to help themselves. It's like, what do you expect? There is no magic pill. Everything takes work. And from the physical side, the mental side, the emotional side, it all takes work. You don't just fix it's not that easy. And so it's super frustrating. And I don't like the term healer. I maybe change my mind whenever I think about, I don't know if you listened to Manu's episode where he was just most recently in Peru, whenever they were like sucking on people's necks and pulling things out of them. Those shamans, I will call that healing, and I will proudly stand behind that is healing.
Yes.
But otherwise, what I've seen in the US is people facilitating others, being there to hold space or provide the medicine for them to do the work. And for a lot of people, it's, I'm right there with you. I think my solo journeys were the most powerful. I think when there's no outside distraction of anybody around you, you can get as weird as you want to without worry about anybody else. You can make noises, you can make weird faces, you can listen to crazy music, you can do all these different things, which I think are very important to let go of whatever is stuck inside of you that needs to come out. But
I agree with you completely.
But like the solo experiences, but to have, there's never going to be a FDA approved situation or a therapeutic situation going forward where they're just like lock you in a room and throw a bunch of psychedelics at you. Like, that's not going to happen. So I understand where they're coming at with MAPS protocols and all those other kind of things, but these facilitators or guides or guardians or trip sitters, whatever you want to call them, I feel like if anybody tells you they're a healer, you should probably steer clear of that person and not go through any work with them.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And to your point of real healing and real medicine work, I know exactly what you mean. I've experienced it with Cookie and the Yoruba tradition and her Cuban roots, and seeing things, no medicine involved, nothing, just prayer and offerings, and also, some heavy body work and some accountability, from looking you in the eyes and saying, this is why this is happening. This is why. That is as powerful as any psychedelic experience. And I would definitely, have no problem saying people are healers in that vein. But to your point as well, there are healers, but there's not many people who are healed. Like, it's a process, I mean, I don't even know what it would look like for me to be healed of my trauma. It's part of me. It defines me. Like, it can't go back in time and save Bruce Wayne's parents. You know what I mean? Like, it's just part of who we are. And it's about how you process that. And psychedelics, honestly, I'm grateful for where I live and everything, but for an over-bloated and self-indulgent population of people in this country, I can only hope that psychedelics will be, the catalyst that people need to tap into the fact that no one pill or no one fucking Netflix series is going to make them feel better. You can do this as a process and accept the shadow of death as it comes with grace and dignity. That's my hope. But like you said, the protocols and everything, that's why I've taken such a break from everything lately, is because it's just like everybody's acting like they're just holier than thou. They got all the answers. Meanwhile, they're taking everybody's money, charging a fortune, and everything. It's just so out of whack. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes over the next few years.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could ramble back and forth nonstop on this topic, but yeah, I mean, so that was Cactus for you. Obviously super powerful. You said you've only really microdosed since. What's your calling to go back to a full dose experience?
Oh, I'm heavily called to it. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I have several cactus growing right now. Some of them endured, a blizzard and a hurricane. What do you want to call it? A hurricane.
Yeah.
A hurricane like we had up here. So they've had snow water and rainwater, and I think they're raring to go. I wouldn't mind trying it with some trusted people, like on a camping trip.
Yeah.
I think that might be kind of an interesting way to go. But, being, veterans walk and talk and all that stuff, it's hard for me to turn off that leadership role sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I would have to have a really trusted group of people to do that with. Otherwise, yeah, I'm definitely called to do it solo, man. And I cannot promise that anyone is going to have the same experience that I've had, but I'm telling you, man, it is the most nurturing, loving, heart-opening experience that I ever had.
And that's what I've always heard, is it's very heart opening. That's like the number one thing I've heard so many people say. So I'm very fascinated to try it. And like I said, I'm right there with you. I had the Cactus. It's all ready to go. It's just finding the time for a 20-hour journey. And, but it's high on my bucket list. I think that's probably going to be one of my next few experiences, and like within the next couple months for sure.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait to hear all about it, man. And, keep me in the loop. Maybe we'll do it in the same day in different parts of the world and see if we can talk to one another.
Yeah, we'll tap into that same realm.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Thanks again for joining me. Until next time. Love you, dude.
Love you too. My pleasure.